You wake beneath a warm blanket, reach for your phone, and walk barefoot into a bathroom where one small click shuts the whole world out. The fan hums. Hot water fogs the mirror. For 10 quiet minutes, nobody watches you. Wash, dress, think, argue, cry, or stare blankly at your own face. Now remove the lock. Remove the door, the hallway, the bedroom, and every solid wall around you. Put 20 or 30 people within earshot, including your parents, your children, your cousins, your rivals, and the one person who knows exactly why you disappeared last night. That was not a terrible weekend. That was ordinary life for much of the human story. So the question is simple. For hundreds of thousands of years, with no bedrooms, no bathrooms, and often no permanent house at all, did your ancestors have any private life? Yes, but privacy did not look like a locked room. The first thing you need to understand is that ancient camps were usually intimate, not enormous. Your ancestors were not sleeping shoulder to shoulder with 10,000 strangers, but they often lived close enough to hear every cough, argument, grinding stone, crying baby, and restless movement after dark. Modern hunter-gatherers cannot be copy-pasted into the Stone Age. They are living people with their own histories, but their camps show what a mobile human life can make possible. A 2017 study of the Hadza near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania described a typical local group of about 30 people. Sound mattered too. Researchers measured how grass huts, noise, and fire shaped sleep. Another Hadza study found that most participants slept beside at least one other person, while many married couples shared the same sleeping surface with their children. Families slept close. In 1973, anthropologist Patricia Draper reported something even stranger. Among the Juhansi of the D. Kalahari, extremely crowded living conditions, apparently chosen voluntarily, without the physical signs of stress researchers expected. Think about that for a second. Crowding and feeling violated are not automatically the same thing. When everyone expects life to be shared, constant proximity can feel ordinary instead of invasive, just as a packed family kitchen feels different from a stranger standing too close in an elevator. Still, your ancestors were not trapped. Beyond the firelight stretched an enormous landscape. A short walk could move you from conversation into darkness, from smoke into clean air, from 20 watching faces into grass, trees, rock, and sky. The camp was crowded. The world outside it was huge. And this is where the ground starts talking. Archaeologists cannot dig up embarrassment. They cannot carbon date a secret, recover a moment of awkward silence, or identify the exact spot where someone went to be alone. But they can see patterns. At Gesher Beno Yaakov in northern Israel, a site dating back roughly 790,000 years, researchers found that early humans divided activities across two main areas: stoneworking, plant processing, animal processing, tool use, and eating were not scattered randomly. Several activities clustered around a hearth, while others occupied a different zone. Around 300,000 years ago, at Qusam Cave, also in Israel, a repeatedly used central hearth covered about 4 square meters, while meat cutting and hide working happened in distinct areas around it. That does not prove anyone had a bedroom. It proves something more basic. Long before your ancestors built permanent walls, they already treated space as meaningful. This patch was for fire. That patch was for cutting. Sharp stone waste belonged away from bare feet. Smoke, blood, food, sleeping skins, and tools each pulled daily life in different directions. Here's what doesn't make sense until you think about it. Privacy begins before architecture. It begins when a group agrees, without drawing a line, that different spaces carry different rules. You do not need a wooden door to understand that one corner belongs to a sleeping family, or that someone sitting beyond the fire does not want company. The first walls may have been invisible. But what about the obvious question? How did your ancestors sleep, change clothes, give birth, fight with a partner, or have sex when every relative was nearby? The honest answer is that archaeology goes quiet here. No fossil preserves a whispered signal. No stone tool records a friend deliberately looking away. Yet the lack of a modern bedroom does not mean the lack of intimacy. The Hadza co-sleeping evidence matters because it shows that married life and family life can exist even when children are physically close at night. Privacy can be created with timing, distance, darkness, temporary shelter, and one crucial social skill: pretending not to notice. That last part may have done enormous work. A few meters of space can block a clear view. A hide screen can hide bodies without hiding sound. Night can erase detail while leaving everyone perfectly aware that, too, people have stepped beyond the fire. So privacy may not have meant nobody knows. It may have meant everybody knows, but nobody interferes. Eventually, shelters made that easier. At Mesorik in central Ukraine, Ice Age people built 4 known structures from mammoth bones and tusks. New dating work places one of them around 18,000 years ago, and the structures ranged from roughly 12 to 24 square meters. Researchers interpret them as dwellings suited to harsh Ice Age conditions, but even a hide-covered frame creates shadows, visual barriers, and a small circle of controlled space. Privacy may have arrived as a side effect of survival. The wall kept out weather, then it kept out eyes. Still, a wall made from hides was not soundproof, and a shelter holding several people was not your private studio apartment. The more important barrier may have been human etiquette, the silent agreement that certain moments belonged to someone else. Sometimes the oldest door was another person choosing not to look. Of course, that agreement had limits. In a small camp, your private actions could become public knowledge very quickly. People noticed who shared food, who broke a promise, who returned angry, and who suddenly stopped speaking to whom. Reputation followed you everywhere. Anthropologist Polly Wisner showed how powerful this could be in a 2014 study of Juhoansi conversation. She analyzed 174 daytime and nighttime conversations, along with translated texts, and found a striking split. Daytime talk centered on practical matters and gossip that helped regulate social relationships. Around the fire at night, conversation shifted towards stories, distant people, ritual, imagination, and repairing the tensions of the day. Again, the Juhomansis are not a museum display of the Old Stone Age, but the pattern reveals something ancient camps almost certainly faced. When everyone depends on everyone, information becomes a survival tool. Gossip can be cruel, but it can also warn you who cheats, who shares, who can be trusted with a child, and who may abandon you when food runs low. Here's the part nobody talks about. A life with less privacy can also be a life with less invisibility. When your baby cries, somebody hears. When an injury changes your walk, somebody sees. When you have not eaten, the people around the fire are more likely to know before you explain. The same attention can suffocate you. It can also save you. Modern privacy protects your freedom to fail, quietly to recover, privately, and choose which version of yourself other people see. Ancient closeness offered less control, but it made it harder for pain, danger, and need to disappear behind a closed door. Your thoughts could remain private, your condition rarely did. Then humans began staying put, and privacy changed shape. At Çatalhöyük in what is now Turkey, people lived in a dense settlement during the Neolithic, the early farming age, with major occupation on the eastern mound. Between about 7,400 and 6,200 BCE, the houses stood packed against one another, with no streets between them. People crossed the roofs and climbed down ladders through ceiling openings. Inside, raised platforms served for sleeping and domestic work. Side rooms held storage, ovens sat near the entrances, and the dead were buried beneath the floors. That is more architecture, but not necessarily more separation. Your household had walls, yet your roof was also a path for neighbors. Your family slept above buried relatives. Cooking, work, storage, ritual, birth, and death all occupied the same small structure. Then look at Skarabrae in Orkney, occupied from around 3,100 to 2,500 BCE. Its stone houses had central hearths, built-in beds or sleeping areas, cupboards, dressers, and narrow-roofed passages connecting homes. One house even had a stone door that could be secured from inside. By then, privacy had gained weight, hinges and edges, but walls created a new paradox. They gave you control over who entered, while creating more things worth hiding. Stored food, tools, valuables, family disputes, inheritance, and status. The private household protected you from the proud community, but it also separated you from the people who once saw nearly everything. That trade never ended. So did ancient humans have a private life? Yes, but it came in layers. Shared camps exposed their bodies, so they used distance and darkness. Daily work collided in one place, so they divided the ground into meaningful zones. Families slept close, so intimacy depended on timing, shelter, and discretion. Reputation traveled fast, so social rules told people when to watch and when to look away. Then permanent settlements arrived, and invisible boundaries slowly hardened into walls, passages, platforms, doors, and rooms. Privacy was never simply being alone. It was control over access to yourself. Your ancestors had little control over sound, smell, gossip, or who noticed their pain. Yet they still found small pockets of choice. A walk past the fire, a shadow behind a shelter, a quiet hour before dawn, a conversation meant for one person. Maybe that should make you grateful for the ordinary miracle waiting in your hallway. Tomorrow morning, you will step onto a cool floor, close the bathroom door, hear the lock click, and watch warm water cloud the mirror until even your own reflection disappears. The locked door is new. The need behind it is older than history.